Welcome to Gruesome Magazine. Tonight we review Saloum, streaming now on SHUDDER.
Gruesome Magazine.
I am your host, Doc Rotten, and this is Gruesome Magazine, where we review the very latest in streaming and video on-demand horror movies. Each week, my co-hosts Jeff Mohr, Crystal Cleveland, Dave Dreher, and Christopher G. Moore will take a look at various spooky, scary, and gory genre offerings. Yes, with me tonight is my co-host, Jeff Mohr. Jeff, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing very well.
Very well indeed, sir. Very well
It's
indeed.
pleasant Iowa way.
What?
You're chattering.
Oh, am I chattering?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're definitely chattering.
I like to chatter. All right, there we go. Fixed it. Yes, yes.
No.
No.
Mm-mm.
Live
I'm
shenanigans.
sorry.
Live
I'm like,
shenanigans.
I could say yeah.
All right. Also joining us this week is Crystal Cleveland, the Living Dead Girl. How you doing?
I'm fabulous. I see. I can't. Just to pass me by and go to Christopher. He's gonna have something funny and cute and witty, and we're all gonna laugh, and then I'm gonna be sad because I can't come up with anything.
All right. Speaking of Christopher, let's welcome award-winning filmmaker Christopher G. Moore. How you doing, sir?
Are you okay, Crystal? You seemed unsure as to if you're feeling right or not. I'm doing okay. I'm a little bit tired. I've been protecting my village from evil for a little while.
Yes.
So, and that's a hard job, when you're having to protect people from evil Karens. So I'm doing okay.
Evil Karens.
Oh,
Just zooming around the neighborhood. Oh my gosh.
Or Chads. What is it?
Chads and Karens.
Chads
Just
and
evil
Karens.
Chads and Karens.
Oh my gosh.
No, we have a favorite Chad.
Well, yeah.
There's
we do.
one who's the exception
But-
to the rule.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There's one exception, Chad.
Yeah.
We have
He's-
a bunch of listeners that leave comments named Chad also. So we
Yeah.
true.
Anybody we personally know or know through
Yes.
the show that's Chad has been excluded. So don't be. It's not you.
We didn't pick the name. I didn't pick the name Chad to be.
Okay.
reference for-
Evil crystals. We've been finding off evil
Evil
crystals.
crystals.
I'm fine with
How about that?
Yeah,
Dark
yeah.
crystals.
I like it.
Dark
Yeah.
crystals. yeah.
Dark crystals.
Dark
yes.
crystals. Oh, guys. All right. What we're
Legendary dark
going to
crystals.
do tonight is we're going to review the film Saloum. It's streaming now on SHUDDER. We're going to give you our first impression. That first impression will be spoiler free. And then we're going to dive into a discussion. We'll get into some spoilers to kind of get that ball rolling. And then we'll wrap things up with our final thoughts, our score 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. Of course, we hope you enjoy not only this review, but many others that we have on the site. And if you do like this review, please hit the subscribe, the like, or share with a friend. And help us reach 5,000 subscribers on YouTube. Yay.
We can totally do that.
You can help us.
You can help us.
You can do it.
And of course, if you would like, we'd love to hear your comments down below. All right, let's take a look at the card and get this ball rolling. Saloum 2022, available streaming on SHUDDER beginning September 8th, 2022. Directed by Jean-Luc Herbulot. Is that close? Written by Jean-Luc as well as Pamela Diop. Cast includes Gael, Evangeline Illy, Juhen, Roger Sallah, Mentorba, Bruno Henry, Marielle, Salmier, and Babacar. Is it Oualy or Oualy? I think I'm going to. Oualy.
Sounds good. Mhm.
Oh my God! I embarrassed me and my entire nation. All right, synopsis is: in 2003, 3 mercenaries extracting a druglord out of Guinea-Bissau are forced to hide in the mystical region of Saloum, Senegal. Once upon a time in Africa is the.
So both of them are once upon a time. That's interesting.
I like.
there you
Did
go.
you notice the little thing at the end of the gun is Africa? That's
Yeah, it's awesome.
Oh, I did not. Now that that's
Cool.
you said
That's
that,
a
I
cool
can't
visual.
not see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get into our first impressions, and let's start off with the man with the eyes, Christopher G. Moore.
Yeah, I will say the very beginning of this film, I was kind of worried because for some reason it felt a little bit off quality wise. It felt a little bit off, but I guess later on you kind of see how that kind of plays into it when it comes to the nightmares of like the main character, which is shot in a much more frenetic and less I guess quality way. So I can understand what they're going for filmmaking wise, but I think as the movie goes along, and for a while I was like, is this a horror film or just a crime a crime thriller or something?
Yeah.
And the horror does happen, but it happens more like, without spoilers, it happens about third away, the last third of the movie.
Yes.
But it's one of those films that kind of you get to know these characters, and the one guy kind of reminded me of Mr. T for some reason because he had the mohawk. But yeah, you get to sort of get to know these characters and how each one of them has their own little ways about them. One of them is more like the mystical one, and this sort of like one of those situations where things go wrong when you're trying to steal something or whatever. And then also just dealing with other people and that kind of thing. But yeah, I found it to be a very interesting story, and I think that's a good thing about doing this podcast is sometimes you come across films you might not normally watch or think about watching, and because this story takes place in a different place than we live, you get to see different perspectives, and it's got some really great acting performances in it, and also the script is even more impactful and even more a lot more effort went into it because there's parts of it where people are using sign language as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more than just the dialogue. There's also these characters had to learn forms of sign language to be able to talk to each other at certain times. So, but yeah, I found it to be very interesting and intriguing, and especially when the crap hits the fan and things start going awry, and then there's this other element they have to deal with, which we see sort of in some of these. Was it From Dusk Till Dawn? It feels very From Dusk Till Dawn, where it goes from one movie, it becomes one. It starts out as one movie and turns into another movie. So yeah, I enjoyed it. And again, I was a little bit worried at the beginning. The ending feels a little flat for me, but overall, I really enjoyed it.
Jeff Moore, you're up next. What was your first impression of Saloum?
First impression. Well, I'm trying to decide. I like this movie a lot. I like it a lot.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
First impression was sort of maybe a little off because I was having a hard time following what was going on.
Yes.
Which, in the end, I watched it again after it ended, and I went.
You do that.
By the time it ended, I loved it. I absolutely loved it, and I had to watch it again. So, loved the movie. Loved the music. Absolutely loved the music. And the acting, as Chris said, was excellent. I don't know about the cinematography or the editing or whatever, but I loved the look of it and the feel of it. I just thought it was great. I liked the quick cuts and the blurs and stuff like that. I thought it, I don't know if it was intentional or because of budget or what, but I thought it was appropriate for what was going on. I like this sort of mythology or spiritual stuff they put into it, and what this guy, one of the characters, was doing behind the scenes that we didn't know about. So there's kind of a reveal there. So anyway, I liked this a lot, and it's one of those ones that I liked the second time around. I liked it even more because I could actually see the little tip-offs in the first part of it. So it is. It's a little confusing, and I don't know if there was some sound problems or if it's intentional, but there's several scenes where you're watching something happen with the characters and somebody's talking, but nobody's mouth is moving. So I didn't know if it was supposed to be a voiceover or
there's a narrator through a lot of it. Yeah.
or kind of a cut where you didn't, you cut to a visual while somebody's still talking or something. But I figured it out. I really liked it.
I like that. Yeah, there is some narration going on as well. But yeah, they do that. What is that called, Christopher? When you cut away from somebody and still have them talking, or they're talking and they're doing something else? Because it's a technique. They do it a lot in YouTube videos. So.
Oh, like the narration type stuff, or are you talking about like an L cut or?
Yeah, or J cut. J cut's the sound.
One of those.
L cuts, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I think they're doing something along that line. Crystal, what's your first impression of Saloum?
Okay, so here's the thing. I thought I was gonna absolutely freaking hate this movie because I started watching it and oh my God. It's okay. So I will tell you that at least the first 25% of this movie is not my kind of movie. I don't like war movies. I don't like, these movies where I'm just completely lost. I have no idea what the dynamics are over there. I had no idea who these people are. I thought they were just angry, mean people just doing whatever. It just did nothing. There was also a lot of dialogue, but the subtitles were actually pretty fast because I was trying to watch the visuals and read it, and for some reason they felt faster than usual. So I'm not kidding, I had to restart this movie like 4 or 5 times.
Oh no,
because I just kept just zoning out. I kept finding myself looking at my phone or doing whatever. Then the last time I said, okay, I'm gonna freaking watch this movie and focus on it. So I got past all that, and then once I did, I really started to, about halfway through, I really started to find the movie interesting and started enjoying it. I thought the acting was phenomenal, like Christopher said. I thought, I agree with the sound. The music's great. I mean, no issues there. It really is 2 different movies. I don't like the first kind of movie.
It's almost 3.
Yeah. But I like the second kind of, well, yeah, when he's at the table. Okay, well, we're not giving it away, but yeah, there's a point where it's sad. It deals with some sad things. And, I'm sure a lot of it is, when they say, when we talk about being lost in translation, I think there is some of that for us in this movie. Yeah. I think it's probably even more impactful than what we're seeing. But by the end of the movie, I really enjoyed it. I really liked it. I actually felt like the ending made sense, and it kind of, I get what Christopher's saying. It's like, but it's like he was meant to, kind of perpetuate this whole thing. It's so interesting. Like it's a circle. But by the end, like I said, I really liked it. So if someone out there is going to watch it, just kind of stick with it. You just got to
be patient, right? Be patient.
Yeah. Because it was a rough one for me at first.
Rough one. Yes. This is one of the reasons why I love doing these podcasts is we get introduced to films like this that normally I don't know if I'd ever pick this up. I wouldn't realize it was genre enough to pick up. And so these things are often a huge surprise. Of course, it's also, a African film. It's, even though it's in French, I believe, right?
Yeah.
There's a couple languages and in sign language as well. But I had the same reaction to the first little bit. It took a while to warm up to the movie. But once I did, I really liked our 3 initial leads that rescued the drug person. They had an interesting dynamic, and the one was kind of a mystic. He had the little magic dust, and and they looked great too visually. They were, they looked like it's well cast, and they had chemistry together. They looked like they felt like a team. And then there's another person that's introduced that could be a part of the team, and that dynamic was interesting too, and gave us some really interesting conflict. That's not your typical kind of conflict that is also included in this when it comes to police officers and cops and stuff. So there was a lot going on once they land, at Saloum that really drew me into it. I mean, once they got there, man, I was sucked in. getting there was a little tough, but once they got there, I was all in, and I was enjoying the hell out of it. And then it takes a turn. I think you were mentioning, the dinner table. There's a couple dinner table scenes, but one in particular. And then it takes a turn, and then it gets really, really cool. And then I'm like, is this really happening? What's going on? Now, I'm still confused about some of it, but I don't care. And I will agree that the ending, it's not the ending I wanted, but it's absolutely the ending that the film needs. The film's building up to that. So, but I was like, oh man, you set something else up, and but we'll get into all that. So I really ended up enjoying the hell out of this, and I'm kind of surprised how much I liked it, because I was kind of almost one of those films like we're gonna do it because we want to do it in the Shudder, and we got to do it, but I don't know if I want to do it, right? But now I'm glad I did. So it was fun.
It's like I don't know if I like it.
Well, it the first like 75% is almost like a Tarantino Western of sorts, It has those kind of elements to it. Although I found this weird connection to the A-Team for some reason.
Oh wow!
Because you have one guy, instead of being afraid to fly, he's afraid to go in the water.
Yep.
You have another guy who's almost like Mr. T. You have another guy who's kind of crazy, but he's more mysticism. So you have all these different. I don't know, for some reason my weird brain connected that together. But you have, they're all, because they all have their individual looks. It just feels like kind of stylistic thing that like Tarantino would do,
and personalities,
it's
very important.
They all stand apart, and you can tell that, and that's good. That's good, costuming, production design, and also just good storytelling to know that we know all their different viewpoints or how they look at things, but again, at the very beginning, I was like, is this where's the horror? I was like, I understand there's the horror of like war or horror of people getting killed, but I was like, where's the horror, And but when the horror happens, like, okay, that's gone. That's gone horror, crazy. That's horror. Full horror. And I think that's the cool thing is sometimes and it would just, again, like why I compared it to From Dusk Till Dawn, because that's more of starts off kind of like a crime thriller type thing, and then it goes into the full vampire. And this one, it has like the supernatural element that happens, and it becomes really interesting. And again, there is some stuff that's lost in sort of the translate, because even later on when they're trying to explain all this stuff, there's all these words that I have no idea what these words mean. I know that are even in the English translation. I'm like, I have no idea what they're talking about, but I'm still intrigued by it because I believe, that whatever they're saying is probably scary or weird or whatever. But again, it makes me kind of wonder, like, oh, is this kind of a mythology from that area?
That's what I think.
Or stories, does this, but it has that kind of supernatural thing we usually see here when it comes to like witches, curse, or cursed land, or haunted house, that kind of stuff. But it's got a really interesting story, and I think we've always said, like, a good horror movie, you have to have a good foundation when it comes to the characters and those stories, and then when the horror happens, you feel for them, and you feel for that in this kind of situation. There's a little bit of Bird Box later on too with this as well, but
Bird Box. It's very important that you like these characters, and they do establish them, and they are characters. We've had that discussion before, where the difference between a character and a caricature, and this one, they very much are characters, and you really get to you really start rooting for them, even though they're presented initially as bad guys. You start learning more about them. We aren't.
You understand why they might be bad guys,
or why they might be heroes.
Come on, like that the reality is the main dude was never ever gonna be okay.
No,
he was never ever gonna be okay. That's sad, and it's horrible, but that's part of the reason why the ending kind of worked for me, because I'm like, well, maybe you can make something better. Maybe you can,
Well,
I don't know.
I found it really interesting to find you find out more about their background, because at the beginning, you just kind of feel like they're thieves, and you're wondering, how much are we giving away here? You're wondering we're seeing all these bodies laid around, and you're wondering, did they do that? What's going on? And then later on, this Awa, the deaf mute woman, is talking to Chaka and calls them the Bangui hyenas, the legendary trio of mercenaries that have done all these famous things, apparently.
Yeah.
So it was that we're all positive. She called them heroes.
She called them heroes.
So,
yeah.
So anyway,
Even
so
though
that's
they were, you know,
They definitely
they were
skirted
rough.
the line.
They were rough.
the gray area is wildly covered.
Right.
but the reality is how rough it is over there. To be a hero, you probably have to be like that. I mean,
and that's, I love the locations, and I had to look this stuff up because I don't know. I wish I knew better, but I don't know where these countries are. So I had to look it up where like Guinea-Bissau was and Senegal and Gambia, and then I could see what they were talking about and how it translated in this real live Saloum Delta area in Senegal. So anyway, I found that I always love stuff like that because I go look at it. You know, we see these different cultures, and I have to go look and see where are we talking about. You know.
Yes.
And
Isn't that great? Isn't that great?
Yeah, and I thought the locations were amazing too.
They you know, this is not some big Hollywood production, that's for sure. I mean, they're out in the elements. There's parts where you see like flies and all kinds of stuff in the shots, and these are not CGI flies. They're out in the middle of nowhere, and you feel like they're in those places. This doesn't feel like some kind of set, and I think that's what kind of like keeps you engrossed in what's happening, because you feel like this is, you know, it feels very real in the situations they get themselves in and the places they are throughout this movie. So it's one of the things where you're in the midst of these situations and the places they are, and you feel the sweat.
Yeah.
You do.
You know,
Yeah,
you feel the heat, you feel all that.
Like I could, this is one of those movies you could look at and I can smell that. I can absolutely smell that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's all kinds of little, like Chaco wears gloves all the time, and I'm at the very beginning. After a while, I'm thinking it's kind of friggin' hot to be wearing leather gloves. You know, it's but you find out where that comes from as well. So it's just all. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and there is some supernatural sprinkled through it. It's really subtle. It's almost too subtle, you know, if you ask me. But there's like little hints of something whispering by, or
people running by in the background.
Yeah, running by, or and then of course the whole mystical stuff that one guy has. It's interesting. Crystal, you coming in and out on us? All right, let's go ahead.
I don't know what happened.
Let's go ahead and wrap this up. Let's give our final thoughts, our score 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. Christopher, you are up first.
Yeah, I you know, this is one of those kind of like foreign finds that's worth checking out, you know, and seeing stories told from a different perspective. You know, you can also see there's a little bit of influence when it comes to American crime movies and westerns in this as well, or even horror films for that matter. Because when it goes off the deep end, it gets into more normally what we consider folk horror over here, I would say.
Yeah.
Yes. It felt very almost Wicker Man-ish.
Yeah, it feels like a little bit that. Yeah, and so I think it's definitely worth checking out, you know, and just because sometimes we get kind of bored with the same monotony of stuff that we watch all the time that are told from the same perspective or the same type of story, and this definitely takes it in a different direction with different types of characters. It is you know, even though it's got some good shots in it, it's not really glossy, and there's a lot of stuff, the nightmare parts that are shot very shaky camera, low quality stuff that kind of threw me in the very beginning, but you kind of understand it's stylistically that's what they're going for, you know. But still, there's some really, you know, even this, there's some really good sort of CGI elements as well when it comes to the supernatural later on. That's very creepy.
Yeah, the whole tree thing was really sweet.
Yeah. So I mean, I will say, I mean, beginning's a little bit kind of threw me off, and then the ending I didn't work for me as much. But overall, I think it's definitely a film worth checking out. Because it's definitely a well crafted with some really great performances by these actors who I don't think I know of any of these actors. So so I hope we'll see any of them in other things, because I mean this is really well crafted. So I'll give it a 3.5. I really enjoyed it. I think there's times where I wasn't sure where it was going, and if this, I think that, and the ending kind of threw me off. But sometimes I kind of have expectations of how I want the ending, especially when characters have suffered so much throughout their life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe that's just more of my personal
No, I get it. Yeah.
way about things, because I always hate it when you have characters like that. But anyway, as for favorite scene, without giving anything away, I would say the final goodbye of the mystical man.
Oh, yes.
That was
Oh, that was so sad. Oh.
It's very sad, but it's such a...
It's powerful.
It's very powerful and cool, I mean, and because you have these three that are just sort of like, I keep wanting to call them the A team, but they're not the A team, the Saloum team or whatever, the S team. But yeah, when those three say goodbye and stuff, and then him sort of trying to help with the abilities he has.
Right.
So I don't know. So I like that, and plus I just like the shot of him in front of that tree.
It was great. Yeah.
Really cool shot.
And all the things flying around it. Yes. Very good.
That was
very
very
good.
cool.
Jeff, your final thoughts, your score, and your favorite scene.
It's going to be pretty similar, although I think I liked it more. I would strongly recommend this to people. You got to read subtitles. Some of them go by pretty quickly. And but I liked it a lot. So stick with it. Like we said, it's almost like 2 or 3 different movies. So stick with it until they get to the Saloum, to the camp that they go to, because then things really kind of start to open up. I'm going to give it a 4.25. I mean,
Nice. Very nice.
I really liked it. And I'm going to say, as a favorite scene, because I cheered when they come up on the boys are attacking Solomon, I think his name was, the Omar servant, or right
Wait
hand
a
man.
second. Wait, who, wait, what scene? The kids?
This guy takes off on the 4-wheeler.
Oh,
Dang,
yeah.
That was mine. Damn it.
And then the boys, and then when they catch up to him, it's like,
yeah,
oh,
that was mine too.
I cheered.
Yeah, that was my favorite too. Darn it. No.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Well, you don't have much time to think of another one, Crystal. What is your final thoughts, your score, and favorite scene?
Okay. I'm gonna give it a 3.5 as well. You just have to stick with it. I think a lot of people will enjoy this. I think it's just bizarre how much it changes, but I think it's compelling. And I kind of think that, like we talked about, I think that there's even more to this. I bet it's super impactful, like for people who understand the culture better than I do. And Jeff took my favorite scene, so
I'll take mine.
well, I don't know. I don't think so. I don't know. Okay. So what does so I'll kind of take a different part of that. How about just where he rescues the kids?
Yes.
He rescues them. Okay. And then even like right after that, when he goes and tries to figure out, that's when we find out a lot of it. After he rescues them, he's like, why do you have, what are you doing with the kids? So yeah, there we go. That works.
It starts upping the ante of the stakes. Yeah.
It does.
Yeah. Okay. to put it simply, the movies like this are the reason why I love that we review so many Shudder films.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I love, learning about new types of horror, new cultures, and they are bringing a wide variety from all across the globe, and as well as really good stateside stuff as well. You know, so and so there, I don't know, like other than a film festival, would I ever be exposed to this any other way? I mean, maybe on Netflix, but they go mostly for South Korean films. But I have like similar reaction than you guys that you guys had. You know, the beginning was a little off-putting. I was wondering where it was going. But once I got into the rhythm of the film and got into who the characters were and started growing to like them, it didn't take long after that to really get into this movie. And then when it takes that turn, for the last third, the final act, it's brilliant. I'm really impressed by this film, and I've heard good things about it. And I was like, certainly, I don't know why, we have, if you guys know Joseph Perry, he covers some of the film festivals for it, and he loves this film. Now I can see why. So I'm going to give it a 4. And yeah, it's definitely going to deserve an honorable mention, if not an inclusion at the end of the year. It's going to be tough because this year has got a lot of good stuff. But I really enjoyed this. And my favorite scene, and I'm glad you guys didn't get anywhere near the scene, is when Chaka reveals why he's even there in the first place.
Oh yeah.
Because there's it wasn't coincidence that they are here. It wasn't circumstance. He set it all up. And when we find out about that and the whole delivery, I mean, you were talking about Quentin Tarantino, Christopher, that whole scene with him delivering that dialogue and the guy, and then the way he stood up and everything, and
Takes
the whole
gloves off.
and the whole guns, and then because he had a gun, and the sheriff and the cop had a gun, and the crooked policeman, and then so he was like, oh, this is gonna go so bad so quickly, and I just loved it. It was tense, and this is before we even get the into the spooky stuff, right? We've gotten some weird things, with the ears and whatnot, and it was like, what's going on? But this breaks the whole film open, and it really showed a side to the main character that I think was unexpected. I wasn't expecting all that. I was thinking something was coming up, but that where they went, I wasn't ready for that, and I loved it.
I'd boost this probably a half a point just for the music. I mean, the
music was great.
I just absolutely love the music.
Yeah, I didn't say anything about the music, but the music is really quite. And I presume it's the music that comes from the film. But I don't think they edit these in any way when they come over here. So it really is strong. And the actors are great too.
They're amazing.
Yeah.
They're really just amazing performances in this. Better than a lot of the horror films I've seen this year. Just because you have the girl who's like a mute, and
she's fantastic too. Yeah.
Performance,
yeah. And the bad guy that we just talked about is good too.
Oh, yeah.
And because he plays two different versions of that character, right? He plays in the flashbacks, he's slightly different than he is now. He's waned a bit, but
we never really did we get any explanation why they all knew sign language? The at least the two mercenaries?
Not that I know of.
No, they were just did because they're cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe there's situations where they have to be quiet and they use sign.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, I thought of that. Yeah.
That's the only thing I can think of.
I kind of like that they didn't explain that. They just knew. And then the fact that,
I don't think it has to be. It's like, whatever.
I like when the first one, when Chaka realized it made sense, right? Okay, now they're talking. But then the other guy, I forget which one, if it was Al or Rafa, but Rafa just starts chiming in too, and then of course he goes for the universal sign language.
And then
there you go.
Oh no, she says something like, well, apparently even a gorilla can learn sign language.
All right. So I think you're getting a very hearty recommendation for this. Check it out. It's on Shudder. We know you have Shudder. Let us know what you think in the comments down below. Jeff, Christopher, Crystal, thank you for joining me. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you, Doc.
Fun.
Excellent opportunity.
All right. Let's say goodnight.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.